Mace Windu, one of the most powerful Jedi Masters in the galaxy, was a figure defined by his unmatched combat skills, deep connection to the Force, and unyielding moral fortitude. If he had survived the fateful events of his confrontation with Darth Sidious in the Senate chambers, the Empire would have found itself facing an impossible challenge in capturing him. The dynamics of Mace Windu's capabilities, the structure of the galaxy under Imperial rule, and the inherent weaknesses of the Empire itself all point to a reality in which his survival would render him a ghost, an enduring thorn in the side of Emperor Palpatine's regime. To understand why Mace Windu would evade the Empire indefinitely, one must first grasp the nature of his abilities and the mindset he carried into battle. Unlike many Jedi, Mace Windu was a master of Vahapad, a lightsaber form that not only channeled his own aggression, but also turned an opponent's dark side energy against them. This mastery made him uniquely suited to countering Sith, as he demonstrated during his duel with Darth Sidious. Despite the disadvantage of facing a Sith Lord in his own lair, Mace held his ground and ultimately overpowered Sidious until Anakin's betrayal tipped the scales. This alone underscores the kind of threat Mace Windu posed. Any pursuit of such an individual would demand resources and coordination far beyond the reach of even the Empire's vast intelligence network. More than just a skilled warrior, Mace Windu was a tactician and a strategist. His years on the Jedi High Council and as a general in the Clone Wars sharpened his ability to think several steps ahead. This combination of combat proficiency and strategic insight meant that if Mace Windu were to survive his apparent death, he would not only evade capture but also strike at the Empire in ways that would disrupt its oppressive machinery. The ability to adapt and plan while staying one step ahead of his enemies would make him a phantom unpredictable and untraceable. The Empire itself, for all its might, had inherent flaws that Mace Windu could exploit. The centralization of power under Emperor Palpatine, while effective in asserting dominance, also created bottlenecks in decision-making and response time. The sprawling nature of the galaxy meant that the Empire's forces were stretched thin, often relying on local governors or planetary leaders to maintain control. This decentralization outside of core planets like Coruscant made it difficult for the Empire to project power uniformly across the galaxy. Mace Windu, with his understanding of the Force and his ability to operate in secrecy, would likely have sought refuge in the Outer Rim or other less governed regions. There, the Empire's ability to find him would be severely diminished, especially given his knack for staying out of sight when necessary. Moreover, the Jedi Order, even in its decimated state, left a legacy of allies, sympathizers, and hidden resources across the galaxy. Mace Windu's reputation as a paragon of the Order would likely inspire those who opposed the Empire to aid him. Resistance movements, such as those that later formed the Rebel Alliance, would have recognized the value of a living Jedi Master. While the Empire would undoubtedly devote resources to tracking him down, the network of individuals willing to provide him with shelter, intelligence, and supplies would have made this task nearly impossible. The Force itself would be an invaluable tool in Mace Windu's arsenal, allowing him to sense danger, conceal his presence, and navigate treacherous environments. Unlike the Sith, who often relied on brute strength and intimidation, Jedi like Mace used the Force to harmonize with their surroundings, blending into the fabric of the galaxy. Palpatine's overconfidence, born out of his supposed annihilation of the Jedi, would blind him to the subtle movements of one such as Mace Windu. Palpatine's reliance on Vader and the Inquisitors to hunt Jedi further complicates the matter. While they were formidable adversaries, they lacked Mace's depth of experience and understanding of Jedi philosophy and tactics. The Empire's reliance on fear and oppression as tools of control would also play to Mace Windu's advantage. A single Jedi Master of his caliber would represent hope for those living under the yoke of Imperial tyranny. This hope, intangible yet powerful, would amplify the challenge of capturing him. The Empire's vast network of spies and informants, while formidable, would struggle against populations inspired by the idea that a Jedi still lived and fought against their oppressors. Mace Windu, with his keen understanding of symbolism, would likely leverage this to rally resistance without exposing himself unnecessarily. The Empire's response to such resistance would often be heavy-handed, further alienating the populations it sought to control and providing Windu with even greater cover. Additionally, Mace Windu's character and principles would make him uniquely suited to life as a fugitive. Unlike Anakin Skywalker, whose fall to the dark side was rooted in fear and attachment, Mace was steadfast and unyielding in his commitment to the Jedi way. This emotional discipline would allow him to endure the hardships of survival without succumbing to despair or recklessness. The mental fortitude that had carried him through the darkest hours of the Clone Wars would sustain him in the face of Imperial pursuit. His ability to focus on the larger picture, to see beyond his immediate circumstances, would make him an almost mythic figure, elusive and indomitable. The Empire's pursuit of Mace Windu, had he survived, would not have been a straightforward hunt. It would have been a battle against a man who epitomized the highest ideals of the Jedi Order, a man who could harness his enemy's own aggression against them. The inherent contradictions within the Empire, the centralization of power, the overextension of its forces, and the fear-driven tactics of its leadership would play into Mace's hands at every turn. His survival would not only represent a tactical failure for the Empire, but also a symbolic one, undermining the Emperor's narrative of total victory over the Jedi. Ultimately, the question of whether the Empire could capture Mace Windu is less about their resources and more about the nature of their opponent. Mace Windu was not just a Jedi, he was a force of will and a beacon of resistance. His survival would symbolize the resilience of the Jedi Order and the enduring power of the light side of the Force. Capturing such a man would require more than just an army. It would require overcoming an idea, a hope, and a belief that even the mightiest empire cannot snuff out. The pursuit of Mace Windu would have exposed the Empire's limitations and inefficiencies, further reinforcing the impossibility of capturing him. The Empire's strength lay in its ability to crush large-scale opposition through overwhelming force, but it was ill-equipped to handle a single, highly skilled operative like Mace Windu. The very nature of the Empire's bureaucracy made it slow and cumbersome when dealing with unpredictable threats. Every move to find him would have required coordination across multiple layers of command, creating delays and vulnerabilities that Mace could exploit with precision. Moreover, the Empire's reliance on its Sith leadership, Palpatine and Darth Vader, would prove inadequate in tracking a Jedi of Mace Windu's caliber. Palpatine, though a master manipulator, rarely left the safety of his throne on Coruscant, delegating tasks to his subordinates. Vader, for all his fearsome reputation, was driven more by personal vendettas and brute strength than strategic finesse. Mace Windu's knowledge of Anakin Skywalker's weaknesses and his deep understanding of Sith psychology would give him an edge in any confrontation or evasion involving Vader. Furthermore, Mace's combat style, honed specifically to counter the dark side, would have made any direct engagement with Sith forces highly dangerous for the Empire. The Emperor's Inquisitorius, a group of dark side practitioners tasked with hunting Jedi, would have been similarly outmatched. While the Inquisitors were formidable, they were not true Sith, lacking the raw power and refined skills needed to contend with a Jedi Master of Mace's caliber. Their training focused on hunting and overpowering Padawans and lesser Jedi, not confronting an individual who had stood against Darth Sidious himself. Mace Windu's survival would not only stretch their resources but also demoralize them, as each failed attempt to capture him would expose their inadequacy. In addition to his unmatched skill set, Mace Windu's ability to disappear into the galaxy's vastness would have rendered him almost untraceable. The galaxy was a sprawling network of planets, each with its own cultures, terrains, and populations. From the bustling ecumenopolis of Coruscant to the remote desert worlds of the Outer Rim, the galaxy offered countless hiding places. Mace's understanding of these environments, honed through years of service to the Republic, would allow him to seamlessly blend in or vanish as needed. Unlike Palpatine, whose power was rooted in domination, Mace's strength lay in his adaptability and connection to the natural flow of the Force. The Empire's technological prowess, while impressive, would have been insufficient to locate a fugitive as resourceful as Mace Windu. Imperial probes, bounty hunters, and surveillance networks were effective tools against ordinary targets, but would have struggled to counter a Jedi's ability to obscure their presence through the Force. The very nature of Mace's connection to the Force would allow him to sense danger before it arrived, avoiding traps and ambushes with ease. His strategic use of the Force, combined with his physical capabilities, would ensure that even the most relentless pursuit ended in failure. Mace Windu's survival would also have significant implications for the galaxy's resistance movements. His presence alone would inspire hope and unify disparate factions against the Empire. This influence would compound the Empire's challenges, as it would have to contend not only with the direct threat posed by Mace Windu, but also with the ripple effects of his existence. Resistance cells emboldened by the idea of a surviving Jedi would grow bolder and more coordinated, stretching the Empire's forces even thinner. The resources diverted to quash rebellions would leave fewer assets available for the hunt for Mace, creating a vicious cycle of inefficiency. Even in the unlikely event that the Empire managed to track him down, capturing Mace Windu would be an entirely different matter. His unparalleled combat abilities, combined with his deep understanding of the Force, would make him nearly impossible to apprehend. Mace Windu was not just a master duelist, but also a tactician who understood when to fight and when to retreat. He would not allow himself to be cornered or overwhelmed, using every available resource to turn the situation to his advantage. The cost of attempting to capture him would likely outweigh any potential benefits, as each engagement would result in significant losses for the Empire. Mace Windu's survival would also serve as a constant reminder of the Empire's failure to eliminate the Jedi. This symbolic failure would undermine the narrative of absolute power that Palpatine sought to project. The Emperor's carefully crafted image of invincibility would be shattered by the existence of a Jedi Master, who not only survived but thrived in defiance of the Empire. The psychological impact of this on the galaxy's inhabitants, as well as on the Empire's own forces, would be profound, creating cracks in the foundation of Palpatine's rule. The pursuit of Mace Windu would thus represent a battle the Empire could never truly win. It would waste time, resources, and manpower on a fruitless endeavor, while Mace himself would remain an unyielding symbol of resistance and hope. His survival would expose the Empire's weaknesses, both structural and strategic, and highlight the enduring power of the Jedi Order's ideals. In the end, the galaxy would remember Mace Windu not as a fugitive, but as a hero who defied the odds and stood against the darkness.